okay, Department of Health, executive officials, fellow public servants, isang magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Okay, so before we proceed to the panel discussion, allow me first to give an overview and context of what is leading change and fostering of culture of safety is all about. With your kind indulgence, we have 2 slides to present this overview. So as a fundamental element of health, patient safety was institutionalized in the Philippine health care setting that had been emphasized in the national policy on patient safety in health facilities. One of its thrusts is fostering a culture of safety for better patient outcomes and better healthcare worker and organizational outcomes. So the culture of safety is defined as core values and behaviors that come about when there is collective and continuous commitment by organizational leadership, managers, and healthcare workers to emphasize safety over competing goals. So cultural safety is such a powerful statement that challenges day-to-day practice in the health facilities. I hope Dr. Helen will agree that yung culture of safety is so powerful that it's not just a statement of policies about safety, but it's a way of life in practice. Okay? So clearly, safety culture requires strong organizational leadership support. Okay? This is why leadership and management commitment to patient safety is a strategy in promoting a culture of safety at the national, regional, and health facility level, which can be achieved by 4 strategies. First, making patient safety as a strategic priority in health facility policies, structure plans, and programs. Second, we should establish a clinical audit system for feedback and systems improvement. Third, we should conduct regular patient safety executive walk rounds to promote culture of safety, okay, walk the talk. And fourth, ensuring that hospital managers, clinicians, and all level of healthcare staff are responsible for patient safety at their level and very important, held accountable. So in alignment with the Global Patient Safety Action Plan, the national policy outlines our roles and responsibilities as chief and directors of the CHCs, DOH hospitals, and LGU hospitals, TRCs, which are, first, we should organize patient safety unit or committee. Second, designate patient safety officer to oversee the day-to-day activities related to patient safety. Third, authorizing the use of official time, hospital facilities, and other resources for PS-related activities. Fourth, allocating an adequate budget for the national procurement of resources and materials necessary for the implementation of the patient safety programs. We should coordinate with the CHDs on the status of the patient safety program and submit data on adverse events in patient safety. Dr. Helen mentioned medyo underreported po yung adverse reaction program. And fifth, of course, monitoring and supporting activities of the patient safety committees. The Institute for Patient Safety, okay, we can have a next slide. For patient safety and quality, we have the 3 C's for the patient safety leadership. The first C is communication. Leaders need to engage, encourage, empower, and enable all healthcare staff and stakeholders with effective, positive communication. There should be a regular and consistent communication of vision of patient-centered, harm-free, safe services as the central purpose of all healthcare. But I should emphasize that communication here should be effective communication. Translated, conveyed, fully understood, and implemented. Okay? This is not just the basic definition of what is communication all about. Second C is co-creation. Leaders need to facilitate co-planning, co-design, co-teaching, and co-learning for co-implementation. This optimizes staff and stakeholders' inherent enthusiasm and motivation. The buy-ins, the sense of ownership to jointly produces a mutually valued outcome. And the last C is conflict resolution. Leaders should identify and help resolve conflicts that can occur among stakeholders, staff, caregivers, and patients. It is very important to identify and address conflicts in the organization and delivery of service, and to listen and act upon concerns and ideas of the team of the healthcare professionals workers. So according to the guiding principles enshrined in the GPSAP, developing a culture of safety is very important, cardinal to any sustainable effort towards patient safety improvement. A culture of safety has to be imbued into the attitude, belief, values, skills, and practices of healthcare workers. Kaya sabi ko, the total package of culture, hindi lang sa salita, but in the total meaning of its term, sa isip, sa salita, at sa gawa. Correct, Dr. Heather. Okay? So, leadership, commitment, transparency, open, and respectful communication, learning from errors, and best practices, striking the right balance between a no-blame policy and accountability and indispensable components of safety culture. Okay, so the steps necessary to cultivate a culture of safety are inherently transformative. Thus, our aim is to achieve a profound shift, one that demands exemplary leadership at the forefront of this transformational change. So again, let us remember the 3 C's for this patient safety leadership: effective communication, co-creation, and conflict resolution. Okay, so to get a different perspective on leading change and fostering a culture of safety, let's now proceed to the formal panel discussion. So, I'll be starting siguro from Dr. Helen. Is it okay for you, ma'am? I'll be calling Dr. Helen or Dr. Ongars here. Okay, so Dr. Helen, the first question goes like this. Okay? Parang Miss Universe. If you will win this contest. But anyway, Dr. Helen, how and where should we start in leading change in patient safety, whether in the hospital or in the community? How can it help nurture a culture of safety?
You can call me Hogar for short.
Sorry?
You can call me Hogar for short. I'll allow you my very intimate nickname.
Okay. By the way, Dr. Nunez is your classmate.
Oh, yeah.
He wants to say hi now.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah. How and where do we start? As I mentioned, it has to be a commitment first. So the DOH is committed. It's about time each of the units that we have here should also commit to form the structure. I think that's the first thing they have to do. They need to form a structure to study where they're at the same time, ensure that they know where they're coming from. We're Filipino, we look where we come from. So which means, study first. What do you have? Your patient safety officer get that, and then strategize based on the resources that you have and how you're going to attack patient safety. The next question that you gave me is a little bit more...
How can it help nurture a culture of safety? Yeah, commitment.
It's a bit profound. As I mentioned, that's a culture change. You have to actually break the norms of the traditional knowledge of how medicine is being practiced. And it cannot happen overnight. Perhaps communication, it's easy to say communication, but in what way? So you probably have to form a team. And as I mentioned, you need a form of movers. Get some movers who are dedicated in that shared goal, that shared vision, to actually strategize on how they're gonna do it, and then measure after a couple of months, are we successful? Have we done it? Did our measures work? Did our strategy work? Then later on, re-evaluate. I think it's not gonna be easy, but just like Neil Armstrong, the first step to the moon makes a landmark, just like a baby, the first step indicates they're being a human. So we have to make that first step.
Yeah, and communication should be a two-way process.
That's true. A relationship is always a two-way process and it's uneven.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Helen. For Professor Jen, or Sir Jennifer, so Professor Jen. Okay, Jen, what are the top 3 challenges that nurses or other healthcare professionals encounter in the workplace concerning patient safety? How can this affect nurses' joy in the workplace?
Thank you. As the only nurse in the panel, I'd like to also be inclusive. I'm sure that the concerns that I'm going to raise with all of you resonates with everyone. Across the pandemic, pre and post, this is what we found. One is that the first is balance. The first barrier or challenge is, how do I balance my immeasurable workload with following patient safety protocols? So it's the first challenge. Mahirap yung workload ko, how do I make sure that I still follow patient safety protocols or observe patient safety? The second one is, how do I make sure that I practice my profession within a hierarchical culture? And that's where communication, teamwork comes in. And the third barrier, third challenge would be, how do I balance taking care of myself while I take care of others? I think more than the issue of sweldo, benefits, it boils down to those 3 problems. And linking those 3 problems with the second part of your question about joy of work or joy in work is that not being able to take care of yourself while having that conflict of taking care of others, not being able to balance, wanting to do the safety measures while you're trying to mitigate having too many patients, and working within the hierarchical culture leads to burnout, people having greater intention to leave, not being happy at work, and all these translate to errors and patients not satisfied with care. Now, to address the second part of your question about joy in work, who among you here feel that you are joyful? Yan namang joyful dito, joyful? Wow. Diba ang i-assess? Madaling i-assess yung masaya ka ba? Oo. Pero yung maligaya ka ba sa ginagawa mo, mahirap yung sukatin. So joy sometimes can be misconstrued as something very abstract. But actually, joy in work has been operationalized. It's a scientific fact. It's a factor actually that you're looking for. That when you have joy in work, you have found meaning in what you do, and you are engaged in what you're doing. So it's not an issue of whether yung sweldo ko ba ay kasing taas ng sweldo ni Doc Hogar, gano'n. Hindi yan pataasan ng sweldo, pero masaya ka ba? Namimit ba na yung pangangailangan mo? What matters to me most? So for example, what matters to me is that when I work hard, I work with a good group of capable, competent people. We have good teamwork, and I bring home enough sweldo so I can feed my family. Because if that is the minimum that is not met, I don't have joy in work, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna go somewhere else where I'm more appreciated. So, but joy in work is not a personal responsibility. Joy in work is something that you find on your own, but it is something that is systemically created within that culture where you promote patient safety. So joy in work is operationalized when the whole hospital, the unit, the department listens to its healthcare workers. When you ask, oh, anong reason ba't ka pumapasok today? Or what makes you like your job? When we genuinely listen, and not just listen, hindi yung mag-unearth ka ng problem, sisiiwanan mo. A good leader, a good manager, would try to find out what is needed by every member of the team or what is prominent, find ways, where is the gap, and then design something. How do we meet this gap for everyone? Not to please everybody, but to meet the basic need for everybody, at the very least, and systematically integrate it into how we do things. People battle with culture. So sabihin nila, this is how we do things here, this is how we do things over here. But culture, how come we can battle for culture of safety? Where we make sure that we listen to the needs of healthcare workers and try to create a system where we make our health workers happy. Because when you have happy healthcare workers, when you have healthcare workers who are engaged, they're not just there for their job, but they are there to make their job even better. And that translates to happier and safer patients.
Thank you, Prof. Jen. Pero yung one very limiting factor rin po yung ratio ng nurse to the patients that compromises sometimes ng safety. Kasi syempre, we have the understanding it should be ideal, but the challenges of the number of nurses against the number of patients in the world.
Let me add to that as well. The DBM guidelines, the ones that they released in 2013, 2014, is 1:12, 1:13. In a general ward, any nurse, physician, pharmacist here, if you try to take care of 13 patients at one go, with the kind of patients that we have now, wala tayong pasyenteng pupunta na isa lang ang problema, di ba? Wala naman na tayong pasyenteng dumadating ngayon na isa lang yung sakit niya. So, maaaring true yan at the time when they were crafting it, but it might not be true now. So, it's more than finding a ratio, but being able to determine whether you have the right skill mix of level of competence ng iyong healthcare worker and vis-a-vis the acuity of the patients that you have. So I know it is a struggle when it comes to ratio, but if we really seriously want to invest in patient safety, we have to make it more difficult to make an error. And one strategic way of doing it is really making sure that there's enough competent, skilled workforce for the right acuity of patients.
Thank you, Prof. Jen. And now the third question is for Dr. Villaflor, sir. So you're the surgeon of the panel. What is the significance of incorporating surgical safety into the National Safety Program? Sir.
Binanggit ito kanina sa introduction pa lang ni Yusek John, yung general policy statement for the National Patient Safety Program. I think one of the key priorities na nabanggit doon sa program na yun ay ang surgical procedures. I think that is where the Philippine College of Surgeons will come in.
And how might this integration contribute to the goal of zero avoidable harm, although a little bit high target to patients outlined in the Global Patient Safety Action Plan, sir?
Yeah. Actually, the Philippine College of Surgeons po, since 2008, nag-align na po sa Philippine Alliance on Patient Safety in Surgery. And it has been in one of the lead agency in the country for instilling the culture of safe surgery through the agreement with the World Health Organization. Ito po yung binanggit ni Dr. Garcia kanina na very grateful po kami na in-embrace ng DOH at we are now implementing nationwide. Ito po yung World Health Checklist, and this is through the DOH program. Also, I think one of the promoting safe surgical practice is really avoiding or reducing errors. This is to protect patients from harm. I think this is the primary goal of this patient's checklist. And we are aligning this kung sa pinag-itungan, don't check po ito, of the Global Patient Safety Action Plan between GPSAP. This is, I think this is the 2021 to 2023, which is really, ang objective niya is to make zero avoidable harm to patients as a state of mind and a rule of engagement in planning and the delivery of that care. I think that is where the Philippine College of Surgeons became part of that GPS. Thank you, sir.
So very important, sir, no, for the surgical perspective, patient-centered yung approach, sir, hindi lang sa yung procedure specific na kung tapos na ang procedure, it ends yung yung care mo, but from the pre-op, intra-op, even post-op. So, yes, Dr. Helen.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate that because in our hospital per se, the surgeons are advocates. We've seen them work very hard to reduce harm peri-operatively, but might be a good virus to get spread because this particular surgical checklist got the impression that it's only for surgeries. It's nice to actually adapt this for procedures. We are forgetting the other non-surgical services to the procedures, and equally that will give a patient safety environment, even for non-surgical procedures.
Okay, thank you. And sige, follow up na lang, Dr. Helen. So what are the key challenges or barriers based on your experience that hinder gaining management support? Okay, gaining management support and transformational leadership for driving positive change initiatives.
The key barriers usually come from the top. See, people cannot move without a direction. A culture cannot move without a direction. Therefore, somebody should set the direction. Subsequently, another key barrier is resource. See, when you are a leader, you're given this finite amount of resource. And you have to have a very good calculator to the up degree to allocate them to the minute one. So somebody has to give you a certain idea how much resources and how can you move with the programs they have. Another key barrier are silo formation. You go back to the hospital, you talk about patient safety, suddenly, that's why I said about the procedural. Suddenly you have people doing great and some of them are not because they're not included in the list. So it's best to probably make it organizational wise, prevent the silos from forming, standardized the way you do it, and that way you get a better program.
Thank you. And any tips or pointers, suggestion, how can we navigate these challenges?
Again, navigating those, there are different terminologies for patient safety officers. The charmer, the compliance officer, the disciplinarian, and finally the executioner. So it's a very wide range of how you can, in Tagalog, haplos din sampal. True, because you have to do all those roles. So get the right person. Go form your team. Get the most influencers of each area and then involve them. I would get a surgeon. If I'm going to talk about surgical safety, I would get a surgeon. I would even get the department head. And across all, even the non-surgeon will agree. I'll get an anesthesiologist if it's about, I'll get a clinical pharmacist for medication safety and form a team. And maybe that's one. Identify the people who will be your principal apostles for patient safety.
Choosing the right people with one unified mindset. Yeah. For Professor Jen, okay, what do you think are the existing safeguards that support and uphold the non-punitive approach or no-blame culture advocated by patient safety while still balancing it out with accountability?
We were discussing it yesterday before you came in. Sabi ko, bakit parang galit sila sa akin? Hirap yung tanong nila sa akin. Non-punitive. I mean, you cannot have a no-blame culture if the cultural awareness isn't there. But things that need to be clear. Sometimes when we have these discussions with across the board, they would say, kapag no blame or non-punitive, ibig sabihin walang accountable. That's not true. Okay, that's not true. In the same lead, when you say we're holding people accountable, does not mean we're blaming people. So when we say we don't blame, we're saying that we are not tolerating pointing fingers at people and saying, okay, this is an error that happened, therefore it's Hogarth's fault. We're pointing fingers, but if it is, kasi we're asking about balancing, no? If it is an issue of malpractice, negligence, then that needs to be dealt with. Okay, that's a way to balance it. That needs to be dealt with. But also in accountability means that we have a shared accountability so that we work with a team so that our team members do not make mistakes too, and we prevent mistakes from happening. And if, for some reason, mistakes, adverse events, near misses happen, we also have a shared accountability to mitigate it. So that's the balance, I think. The understanding that it's not a focus on the individual, but it is a focus on the system. And if it is identified, they always say that we get the results that we deserve because it's how we designed it. The system gets the result it's designed for. So if the system in our unit or in our department, we have a lot of errors, it's because the current system doesn't work. So it's about time to look at it with a shared responsibility, having that shared accountability with that lens that, okay, it's time for us to study where the gaps are and do something about it. Now, medyo specific yung tanong ni Sir kanina kaya may listahan kami. Kasi ang haba, pinag-usapan namin ito kagabi. About concrete steps. Mahaba akong listahan. Sorry. Oo, titignan namin yung time one of the biggest things when we talk about no-blame culture and non-punitive response is we have to make every error, every near miss, every event surface, and we make it count by learning from it. It's not that we hang our dirty laundry in public so that everybody knows that we made a mistake, but it is actually putting our cards down and saying, okay, this is what happened, this is a wonderful opportunity to improve. Rather than it's a wonderful opportunity to fire people, because we're already losing people even if we don't do anything. So some strategies would be, one would be having structured communication skills. Teamwork makes the dream work, that's what they say. So having structured communication, making sure that our managers, our patient safety officers are trained in practicing structured communication techniques. How do we do proper feedback? How do we use advocacy inquiries so that we understand why our staff did this, what is the context, what was their thinking, so that we can design better systems. Second is putting practical ways to report safety incidents. A lot of literature would say that anonymous reporting is really good, but it doesn't work all the time. So even if it's not anonymous reporting, making sure that reporting systems are secure is key. That's why I like the example that you gave earlier, that reports go straight to the patient safety committee. Not the HR, not the nursing service, not the training officer. Kasi ultimately, ang trabaho ng training officer, discipline, tama. Hindi mo ibigay yun, bigay mo sa patient safety. Kasi pag sa patient safety committee, their task is to consolidate, learn, do root cause analysis if needed, and then translate that into evidence, actionable tasks. Third is channeling reports to analyze work with units to find solutions. So it's the patient safety committee that is very popular, whether famous or infamous, that works with units actually, hey, we have reports that this has happened, how can we work with you to make it better? Number 5, involve the staff at different levels and roles in co-creating. You have to co-create. If it's just the same people all the time, pare-parehas lang kayo ng ideas. So involve as many, within that context, to co-create. Involve from the top to the bottom, ideas, the simplest ideas, the most the most innovative ideas, whether it doesn't seem so new or doesn't seem feasible, entertain it. So, co-create. And the last is, ito yung kadalasan nagkukulang. Nakuha mo yung report, in-analyze mo yung report, ginawa mo sa units, pero hindi alam sa ospital na may pagbabagong nangyari. So, there has to be a strategy for dissemination. Whether it is a bulletin that you release monthly or quarterly, whether it's a newsletter, or you have, in every meeting, when you put patient safety as an agenda, good news, any news is always good news. Because any news in patient safety means somebody reported, and any news that has a plan is always good news. So there's always a translation for change. I hope that's fair.
Dr. Helen?
I'd like to give a concrete example of what Jen mentioned. Very, very important. Sorry, sir, you're surgeons, I'm going to use it. Recently, I attended the OR committee of St. Luke's, and we were looking into the fact why we have delayed surgeries. So they submitted all the data to the Quality and Patient Safety Office. We collect the timestamps, and we actually analyzed for them the reason. And then after which, we did not disclose who were late, because that's punitive. What we did is, this is the data, we collect them according to department, the department heads are there, and everyone brainstorm. No names mentioned. I think that's one way. Let us not witch hunt, let's just say the data. Subsequently, about disseminating, that's why people sometimes don't like quality and patient safety too, a lot of patient safety groups, because we have a quarterly reflection, patient safety reflection fora with the hospital, wherein these data are disclosed. And sometimes a competition among the different units come in, oh my God, my medication safety error is higher than the other unit. And you can see how aggressive they are trying to compete with each other. I think that's one strategy. You want to disclose it, tell them their data. But don't talk about people, just data. And after which, everyone will compete as though that's the next lotto.
Also,
Yes.
so that they're balancing it out with, positive reinforcement. Sometimes if it's all negative, they're competing, babain natin to, and sometimes they don't report. The real game changer there is finding that sweet spot where people report, they're not ashamed of reporting anymore, and people compete to say, hey, we have higher reports now, but we're actually doing something about it, and celebrating wins where they have an innovation and it works. And also, you can only do that when you track things. Because if you don't track, you don't monitor, you won't see whether change actually happens.
Yes, Doctor? I agree with that. But siguro more on audit din po, ano? Kasi di ba the usual practice kasi is call the person, explain the reason why it's in the report, kaya hindi siya more on the punitive style siya, but as what we have mentioned, this is more on the audit, discuss on the cases, and how to improve the system. Okay, so for Dr. Villaflor, sir, I have a question for you. Siyempre, based on your experience as a surgeon, could you discuss the effective approaches or mechanisms implemented in surgical setting to ensure patient safety and quality of care?
Siguro, napakalayo ito sa processes na we support yung sinasabi. But to answer your question, sir, yung ating efforts kasi to improve safety and overall quality focus in improving the practice even before and after a surgical procedure. And this is where, again, as I mentioned kanina, the World Health Organization surgical checklist has gone on to show how significant yung reduction niya in both morbidity and mortality. Dito na rin ina-address yung wrong patient side, yung tawag natin laterality, tapos yung patient information. Kasi before there were issues on wrong patient, wrong laterality. So nako-correct na po yun ngayon. And of course, sometimes even worse is the wrong procedure, di ba? Parang iba ginagawa, naka-schedule, appendectomy, yung pala, it's a hernia surgery. So these are the things that has been avoided with the WHO checklist. And of course, again, appreciative po tayo that ang DOH ay in-adapt itong modified World Health protocol po namin. Actually, it was during the pandemic. And because of this, as we all know, the effect of the pandemic delayed elective surgeries. And of course, this had an impact on disease progression. And of course, yung checklist po natin ngayon is a requirement by the Philippine College of Surgeons. Actually, I'm with my regent in charge po ng quality, si Dr. Rex Madrigal, who's with me right now. And we are very siguro fortunate that this is being implemented, not only through the DOH, but also with the help of ORNA. Malaking tulong po ang ORNA, yung OR nurses natin. At the same time, PSA, yung American Society of Anesthesiologists. I think ito po ang mga improvements. Everything will point to patient safety, everything, and quality. Yun po, I think, the bottom line dito.
Yeah. hindi ba may mga big companies na pagpasok mo sa entrance nakalagay zero accident. Siguro sa mga hospital may mga zero harm or may 12 harms, parang it's a one way of subconsciously recondition the minds of the people that they should be cautious and be aware of the harm to the patients.
I think the best validator of your processes are the patients themselves. You're right. We publish them. We put them. We even put the expectations in the rooms. So you are supposed to be identified this way. Notice the most common error, wrong identification, wrong markings. So if the patient is aware of what processes they're supposed to undergo, they complain. And when they complain, that's a validation of an error that is reported without passing through the ones who does the process. And that's one rich source of information. So tama, we do publish them, and it's a good way of engaging the patient. So we actually have some patients telling us, my name was not called when the medication was given. It comes up in those patient public forum or feedback that we have, and it helps. And it also goes to patient safety group for us to analyze also. That's also a source of reporting.
Thank you. So, in the interest of time, I'll be asking a take-home message in panel. So, I'll be starting siguro kay Dr. Villaflor, sir.
Kasi, ang nakikita ko dito, yung pinag-uusapan natin, it's about leadership. It's really recognizing this leadership, in cultivating this culture of safety. And now, I think what's important here is the leaders should lead the change, in change management na pinag-uusapan. And only, I think this was mentioned by Dr. Garcia in change management natin. And again, promoting an open communication, this will again provide our resources and support in creating this culture of learning and also accountability of this teams. Kasi what in-mention nga ni Dr. Lord Harris kanina, yung 3C, yung 3C as in co-creation. This is where yung buy-in, I think importante dito yung buy-in at saka ng ownership. This will come in together to produce mutually valued outcome. And very important is to balance. Yung sinasabi nga ni Ma'am Jan kanina, yung no blame at saka yung policy na accountability. But again, siguro, since for the part of time, I just would like to share with you, this is what I have mentioned to the PCS during our last meeting regarding an article in change management, which I wrote in my President's Corner, that we need to achieve the change that is both participative and transformative. And this is by espousing effective governance, which I think pinag-uusapan natin through this summit is very important, that we balance adaptability with the preservation of our core values and accepting new trends and remaining resilient and relevant in an ever-changing health environment. I think that is basically what we need to accept and do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Villaflor. Jen, from the nursing side.
I think one of the key things that we need to bring home in our organizations is we need to invest in teamwork. And I'm not just saying team building, teamwork really, investing on the leaders, making sure that members of the team are heard, listened to, creating opportunities for communication. There are a lot of team trainings that would apply for healthcare, and I think that's something that we really need to invest in. A lot of the concerns when it comes to reporting, autonomy, collaboration, interprofessional work would be minimal. Mga issues na yun would be minimal when we treat every situation as an opportunity to build the team and to work not just within the unit or within the department, but across departments. The leader definitely has a huge role in it, but also making sure that we create that capacity for every member of the team to be heard and work together towards change would be what would make a culture of safety very sustainable.
Thank you, Prof. Jen. And then from the patient safety guru, Dr. Garcia.
I'd like to give two quotes. One, too many chefs spoils the brew. Number two, why reinvent the wheel if it's there? So I talk about shared vision, shared missions, shared direction. Okay, it's not supposed to be shared, unified. The DOH has already come up with guidelines. We have the training, standard, pero pa isa, variation is the enemy of quality. So we should have one training, one goal, one movement. This is the opportunity to come together, move forward as one, remove the silos, and maybe in the future, we really change the culture into a culture of safety.
Okay, any more on the panel? Okay, maraming salamat to Dr. Vicencio Jose Villacor, the President, Philippine College of Surgeons, Professor Jennifer Pablo, Associate Professor and Program Head of UP College of Nursing, and Dr. Helen Garcia, Vice President and Head of Quality and Patient Safety Group, St. Luke's Medical Center. Maraming salamat for sharing your experience and your expertise.
Thank you, Dr.